So I will read the introductions from each of our candidates running for District 1 Board of Supervisors. Jerry Ficello is in seat number 1. Our incumbent, Sherry Brennan, number 2, and Chuck Keel, number 3. So with that, I will start with Jerry's introduction. Jerry Ficello is a civil engineer and has been in Tuolumne County for the past 46 years. Fresh out of the U.S. Navy Seabees, he came to Tuolumne County in 1970 as a construction engineer to work on the Tuolumne River Bridge. He then went to work for a local paving grading contractor. He established his own civil engineering firm in Sonora in 1978. He became the contract city engineer for the city of Sonora in 1979 and served 36 years to 2015. He's a member of the Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau for past 22 years and has served 5 two-year terms on their board of directors. For Sherry Brennan, she is our current District 1 supervisor. She is seeking re-election because she believes she still has more work to do for our county. During the past term, Sherry, along with her co-supervisors, has had to deal with 3 national disasters, 2 of which continue to affect the county severely. Sherry has worked diligently with federal and state government to help solve these issues. Sherry and her husband Bob have 2 children and 1 grandchild. They live on their family ranch on the edge of the city of Sonora. For Chuck Keel, a 20-year resident of Tuolumne County, public employee and retiree from the Alaska Marine Highway System. He was chief steward of all passenger services. Chuck acquired a bachelor's degree and teacher credential from the University of Alaska and taught several years in Tuolumne County. Purchased and sold the Rock Restaurant in Twainhart, currently co-owner and operator of Luke Court Independent Living with his wife Jamie, currently a real estate broker associate at Keller Williams Realty in downtown Sonora. With that, we'll start with the opening statements, starting with Jerry Ficello.
Yes, my name is Jerry Ficello, and there's a story in the papers today about the Tuolumne River Bridge, that they're changing the deck. Tuolumne River Bridge was the project. Tuolumne River Bridge was the project that brought me to Tuolumne County. I've been in Tuolumne County for 46 years. I started here as a construction engineer straight out of the Navy. I stayed in Tuolumne County, worked for contractors. Then I became a civil engineer. I think that, and I worked in private practice doing many projects for the county. As private owners. My big issue in the county is that the funding for road maintenance and road improvements, road costs keep going up, and the funding that's available that comes out of this county is being reduced. And I'd like to, as supervisor, work on funding for road maintenance and road improvements. And let's see that the state money that comes out of roads here should go back into them.
Sherry Brennan.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting us tonight and thank all of you and the listeners at home for being engaged. This is a very important discussion, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. 4 years ago, I was honored when you voted me in as your District 1 supervisor. At that time, I made a pledge that I would reach across the aisle and engage with everyone in conversations that would benefit Tuolumne County and help solve some of the many challenges that we faced. I've done exactly that, and I will continue to do that. I was honored by Assemblyman Bigelow as his Woman of the Year in 2014 for those efforts. And I am constantly engaging with representatives at all levels because they have come to respect the opinion of Tuolumne County. They know that we do our homework. They know that we are working on behalf of our constituents. And I hope that you will give me the opportunity to continue that work.
And Chuck Keel.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Can you hear me? Testing. How's that? My past business occupations and experience have given me a unique point of view towards growth and maintaining our culture in Tuolumne County and Sonora. My campaign is about trying to come up with realistic ways to alleviate our problems in Tuolumne County. Let's build more diverse housing with higher density within Jamestown, Sonora, and Columbia. Let's expand efficient public transportation between these main business hubs. Let's improve our mental health system. Why don't we reestablish a psychiatric unit to help citizens when in a crisis situation, especially when their medication fails and they need a safe, locked place to get back on track. We need to deal with our homeless and transient population. Our downtown Sonora merchants are very upset and claim that the homeless problem is bad for business. Our residents feel threatened by loitering, unproductive people. Let's lobby the state of California to subsidize the biomass industry, enabling us to manage our forests in a more efficient manner. What if Tuolumne County bought the Ultramass plant in Jamestown? We could increase good-paying jobs, forestry jobs, and produce affordable energy, all while helping to save our struggling, drought-ridden forests.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll start with the questioning, starting with BJ Hansen to Jerry Ficello.
Jerry, the county could have multiple commercial development and housing projects come before it over the next 4 years, whether it be housing and standard development in Columbia or more Dollar General proposals. Can you explain your thought process and philosophy when it comes to deciding on projects that could have vocal opposition among groups in the community?
I think that you really need to look after the opinions of the residents in the area of the development, and it would depend upon the development. I agree with what happened in Columbia with the Dollar General, is that the residents spoke out against it. It is a historic area. Now, had that been in some ultra-commercial area, that might go.
And Sherry?
Thank you, BJ. Last week I met with the Tuolumne County Association of Realtors, and when they showed me the inventory of housing in Tuolumne County, it's frightening. We talk about our children wanting our children to be able to come back here and live and work. Living is part of that. We have a severe shortage of workforce housing, of rental housing, and it impacts this county on numerous fronts. We're going to have an opportunity in the near future with the general plan. The general plan is going to be the guiding document for this county for the next 15 to 20 years. And it is important that whoever is sitting in this chair is looking at all of the intricacies of that plan, because it's going to have very long-lasting implications to Tuolumne County. And it will really determine where growth occurs. And I would just like to end by really talking about community engagement. Community engagement, if you're for a project or if you're against a project, it's important to have your voice heard.
Thank you. And Chuck Keel?
I also agree that community involvement's really, really important. The project out in Columbia, the Dollar General, 300 people showed up to those meetings, and they're very vocal, and they're very intelligent, and they're rising to the occasion when they see something is not correct. As far as the housing, I've always been a housing advocate. I'm a realtor, and I want to see growth, but I want to see it managed in a good fashion. We need to build more density along the Jamestown and Sonora and Columbia corridor, and keep the sprawl up and down 108 where it belongs, where it's accessible. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lynn Riddle to Sherry Brennan.
There was a lot of talk in the group earlier, as you would imagine, about downtown Sonora. And you being in District 1 have that concern as well. And so I'm wondering what your thoughts are about building a bypass to get the traffic off of Washington Street. It's been proposed for quite a long time, the north-south connector. It would be a county project because it's on county land. Would you support it? Yes, no, why not? Why would you?
So I think it's public knowledge that the preferred alternative for a north-south connector could potentially impact my family's property, and so I would be in a position of recusing myself from that specific project. So I'm going to use my time to talk about road funding because I really think that really is going to be a piece of whatever the solution is for fixing the traffic problems that we have. The funding streams for roads has really been diverted. We collect in the neighborhood of $9 million in gas tax. Of that, 22% of all of the collection that the state does goes back to counties. So the state automatically is keeping 78% for other programs. Of that 22% that comes back, 75% of it is allocated on licensed vehicles. So when we send in $9 million, we really get less than 10% back, or less than $900,000. I've been actively working with CSAC with my position on their board to talk about how we must change these funding streams, and we must get an allocation formula that really represents what is being used by the roads. The other formula that we get that's really important to counties is secure rural schools. And since between 2012 and today, we're down almost 60%.
Chuck?
You know, yeah, it's great to talk about funding that could come in the near future, but it's not going to happen that quick. I'm all in favor of a bypass, and I'm in favor of doing anything to help alleviate the problems in Sonora. And, well, everywhere, actually, in this county, but Sonora is the biggest problem. I think we need to talk about diverting some of the traffic out Jamestown Road. Make it one way down Washington Street, and another side street going the other way, Stewart Street. I mean, these ideas have been discussed before, but nothing's really happening. And that's one of the reasons I'm running for office, is because everybody's getting really, really frustrated with the whole system, and we really need to come up with ideas and ways to change this traffic problem.
And Linda,
Jerry?
I've long been a proponent of the Greenlee Road extension as the first phase of the north-south connector. It has been on the regional transportation plan since 1980, and every regional transportation plan since then. If they're going to do anything downtown with Sonora Vision and try to revitalize the downtown, they need to get rid of, or not get rid of, but to reduce the traffic level during the daytime. I've been here 46 years. It's the worst peak hour traffic every day coming downtown. The Greenlee Road extension would take just enough off so that they can do a little more business, have convenient parking, have people stop on it. So I am very much a proponent of, and will be actively following this as supervisors to see that the Greenlee Road extension is constructed.
Okay, you started with Sherry, I'll start with Chuck.
Okay.
All right. Talking about homeless and what's going on out there, AB 109 has significantly impacted our county jail, the sheriff's department, and our probation departments. What do you see as the major issues with AB 109, and what would you seek as a remedy? It's a big problem.
Can you repeat the question?
AB 109 has significantly impacted our county jails, the sheriff's department, our probation departments. What do you see as the major issues with AB 109, and what would you do to seek a remedy?
Oh, I don't know exactly. I might have to say I really don't know, but I know there is an issue about, what it's done to the homeless population, and I'm an advocate of trying to start a homeless camp, and that would help. Allow a place for people to go and live, give them 4 walls, even if it is a tent, and on county property, and make it legal to live there, have a place for them to fill out job applications, keep them busy. A lot of the problem is they're loitering. And I think that's one of the best ways and approaches to tackle that problem, first of all.
Okay. Jerry?
I believe AB 109, I think has created some of the homeless problem here. And I think the homeless problem in the county needs to be addressed. It needs to be a public-private partnership of the charitable organizations and the public. I think we need some state funding to be put in there. We need some place to put these homeless people so that they can either get out of their situation, get treatment for mental health or drugs and that. And it's sometimes an unsolvable problem, but we all need to get together to resolve it.
Sherry?
So, Margaret, I really want to address your question specifically because it's not a homeless issue. It may be part of the homeless question. But this is about what we can house in our current jail. With the AB 109 restructuring, inmates go from the state jails now to the county level. And we simply have an outdated jail. It's dangerous for the staff that's working there. And we're releasing, if it is not a violent crime, we are releasing individuals because we simply have no capacity. So specifically, what have we done? We took a project that was $58 million, and this board, working diligently with the sheriff's office, has gotten it down to 38. We've secured the funding. We have lobbied the state to get the funding, and that jail will be built. It will be state-of-the-art, and we will be able to do some rehabilitation there. It will be out at the Law and Justice Center, and it is going to be a huge asset for this county and very important.
Thank you.
So BJ
For sure.
Jerry, right?
Jerry, high tree mortality remains a pressing emergency in the county and the entire region of the state. What do you see as the short-term and long-term solutions?
Is that for me? Oh, I thought he said Sherry. Oh, okay. What I would do? I think we need all the dead trees. We need to get them out as fast as we can. I think we ought to relax the logging rules, commercial, the permitting, get those what is merchantable lumber out for wood, and then the other stuff that is waste. We ought to be burning in the biomass, create some energy. I think that we really need to resolve this problem of the dead trees and mortality. Also, on private property, I think that there ought to be some assistance granted to the property owners to remove the dead trees as best they can. And even if it's commercial logging, the permit process, even giving them financial assistance, maybe spend some of that fire prevention fee on assisting private property owners to get the trees off their property.
Sherry Brennan?
Thank you. A minute. Catastrophic problem. We have 58 million dead trees from Tuolumne County south. We've gotten all of the restrictions relieved from CAL FIRE, and we can get those trees down. The problem is there's no place to take them. We no longer have infrastructure that can accommodate this problem. And that's not going to be a fast fix. Tuolumne County has been a leader on this. I've been appointed to the governor's task force on this issue, and we need to utilize every resource we have at our availability. I keep hearing about biomass. Biomass is critical, and Tuolumne County was responsible, largely working with a number of other individuals, to get an extension so that we can get through the next PUC bid process. And that's going to happen because we need that in place, but we've got to be engaged. We've got to be at the table. We've got to be part of the answer. And I would really like to talk about the private property piece, but I'm out of time because that has not been addressed by the state in the emergency declaration.
And Chuck Keel.
Well, the short term, I guess we're just going to have to burn it because what else can you do? The long term, I'm a firm believer in the biomass industry, and it might not be for 3 to 5 years that really happens with this the NDRC money. They're talking about building a new plant, but it's a small plant compared to the one we have in Jamestown. I visited there, and you know that's like over 20 megawatts per hour, and it could actually power the county of Tuolumne, is what I was told. And we need to go to the state, lobby the state, and subsidize that industry. That's the only way we're going to get this in place in a quick amount of time.
All right, if you set the timer, we have time for one more round of questions. Lynn Riddle will be asking Sherry to start this round. And Lynn?
Speaking of economic development, what will you do to bring high-paying, well-paying, good jobs to Tuolumne County? And is there a manufacturing company or a retail business specifically that you would like to target to try to bring here?
Great question. Economic development, I believe, is in the forefront of all of our minds. And so I think there were two parts to that question. What would I do? I've been a huge proponent through the HUD process, the resiliency grant. I was hoping that we would get a component so that when they talk about resiliency, that means something that can be replicated. And a component out at the junior college that would be a center. We have a tremendous shortage, workforce shortage. We don't have individuals. Those are all good paying jobs, whether they're in the woods, if they're firefighting. Unfortunately, that piece was dropped in the last round, and so we're continuing to look through funding sources for that, and I am hopeful. But very specifically, the second part of that question is I'm working with Larry Cope on a real exciting piece that's called Capstone, where 4 engineering students at UC Merced have they entered a competition to graduate, and we challenged them to find something that uses the biomaterials in the woods, and I'm headed down there tomorrow to see their final project and their competition. I believe they've got a great chance, amazing to work with these individuals, but they came up with a pelleted form for wood stoves where the processing will actually be done out there in the woods, very economical, again, very replicable. You can replicate it in a number of areas, and amazingly good for the environment to get rid of that biomass component that doesn't have value and make it a value-added product.
Chuck?
Well, the biomass is huge in my book, but that's not, that's not going to happen for a while. I believe that building more housing downtown, Jamestown, Sonora, Columbia will create housing for people to move here. I mean, we have a huge housing problem. So if we develop that corridor, businesses will come. And it's starting. The beer gardens is going to really help. And what do we have? What does Murphy's have that we don't? And that, I believe, is they have good farmers, and they have the winery industry. We could have that too. Eventually, with the drought, our farmers are going to be really important, and we're going to need them. That's going to give a huge boom to our economy. in the near future.
Thank you.
To me, if you want to attract high-paying jobs, I think we ought to be pursuing the electronics industry, the computer industry, with the internet now. I mean, you can have one of these big companies that come up and would love to live in a nice, peaceful area and be able to work up here and work over the internet. I think we ought to really be pursuing the high-tech industry up here. The other thing I think we also need more tourism to bring people up here, and also more logging. I'd like to see a lot more logging done up here like we used to do.
All right. At this time, it's time for your closing statements. You have 2 minutes each. We'll start with Jerry Ficello.
Okay, well, my campaign slogan is "Let's fix the roads," and I would like to really pursue the thing on road funding with the state. What I see happening is that a lot of the money that comes out of the roads here is going to all the urban areas. What they're trying to do in the urban areas is to try to get people out of the car, put them on public transportation. You got these real big transportation projects in the big urban areas that are being funded over our local funding. I'd like to see a shift at the state level to where we do get more of a fair share of the funding that actually comes out of this county in the carbon credits and gas tax and that, and the change in the funding allocation to favor the rural counties where we really do need to be able to get in a car and go someplace. We are far spread out. We have an older population. We need to use the individual car. So on that. On road improvements, I think that we should really take a good look at the priority of projects that are being funded or programmed through the Tuolumne County Transportation Council. And I think we need to do a shift from some of these very expensive long-term state projects and start putting them on our local projects. And I think I will be pursuing that.
And Sherry Brennan.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank all of you for listening. I don't think anyone seriously sits up here in this chair and says, I don't want more jobs, or I want worse roads, or I don't want to work on the economy. I don't want to help solve our homeless issues. I believe every one of us in our hearts wants to achieve these things. The difference is who has specific solutions, who is giving you very specific ideas on how we can achieve this. I want to thank my opponents for engaging in this process. We are blessed to live in the freest country in the world. We have the opportunity to vote at every level of government. I want to encourage everyone to vote on June 7th, and I would be honored if you would give me your vote as the District 1 Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chuck Keel.
Good development projects should not fear public involvement. County residents have proven to be resourceful and competent when development issues threaten their way of life in their rural environment. Let's preserve the historic nature of our downtown Sonora area and work on alternative routes for traffic, freeing the downtown area to reach its potential for tourism and community commerce. Let's plan our communities within walking distance of services and entertainment. As density increases, so will commerce and jobs. Let's provide incentive guidelines to developers so growth is profitable around the Jamestown, Sonora, and Columbia corridor. Let's use infill to make wildfire containment more efficient. Infill development in a small corridor will keep greenhouse gas emissions within manageable limits, a key goal of the regional blueprint. I'm in favor of exploring the option of a homeless tent shelter. on county property, giving the homeless and transient population a temporary residence in order to obtain social services, food bank services, and an address for job applications. Expanding mental health services is what our citizens want and need. If our local hospital cannot do it, the county should step up, not just ignore it. I believe global warming is getting worse, and science supports that position. Our drought, our water shortages, and the millions of dead pines is not normal. But there is an upside. We have an energy source that could support living wage jobs. Biomass energy can help our county become energy independent from PG&E. Thinning the forest and sending trees to a public, nonprofit ultramass plant would create incredible economic growth and stability for our economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So for our audience and our radio audience, you're listening to the Tuolumne County Chamber of Commerce Candidates Night. We're going to take a 4-minute break and return with more candidates on the Mother Lodes news station, AM 1450 and FM 102.7 KVML, and streamed on mymotherlode.com. With that, we'll be taking a 4-minute break. Thank you.